This is episode 321 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm one of your hosts, William Wizard of Waterdeep Hegwood. Tonight, I'm joined by Marcel, Gencon Store Champions, Manzano.
Store Championships.
Store Championships. Ryan, am I seeing double? Staniszewski?
Maybe triple.
Uh-oh. James, multi-class master, Ritter.
Hey guys.
All right, we are going to jump into Gencon talk happening over this last weekend. Very exciting World Qualifier. But before I do that, I got to give a shout out to our GSP Patreons. The episodes of our podcast are brought to you by Patreons. They're the largest group of supporters of what GSP has. They get access to Patreon-only channels on our Discord. We send out quarterly gifts. You just got to go to patreon.com/Gold Squadron to become a patron today. Really helps us get the wheels moving. We got actually footage from Gencon we expect to explore later. Unfortunately, we couldn't do a stream of it because of basically complications with the event. But Dion was there, Marcel was there. Ryan, you went as well, it sounds like, then?
I did not.
Oh, what is it? Must have been a different Ryan. Marcel
Farmer.
had... Oh, Farmer.
Farmer.
That makes more sense, yes. Because I was like, you went to Gen Con? My jealousy for everybody going to Gen Con. Sounds like it was an amazing event. We're going to pull up the roll better here and take a look at lists. How do you guys want to start? You want to start with an overview, or do you want to start with the final table?
Well, let me start just since being the only person here, because Dion was here as well.
Sure.
Dion was there. I showed up Friday, and I got my badge on Friday. So I think Gen Con attendance in general was down, even though they had a lot of sold out. Like, you walk in and they said sold out. Saturday was sold out, and the 40 events were sold out. I think there might have been a lot of no-shows, because normally I do have to wait in line for a while to get my badges. But yeah, there was absolutely zero line. Like, you show up. I mean, there was people there. You could definitely see there was a crowd there, and definitely the hotel prices were still the same as ever. But yeah, it was not. I don't know how attendance was for the event in general. But Kayla and I went with Kayla, and on the drive back, we were, to be frank, we were pretty disappointed, because one of the things, for us, I don't know, like everybody goes, like, buying for me, because I have to, Kayla and myself, it was like $350 for the Gen Con passes plus the like events and all that other stuff. It was like $300 or so, maybe $350. Then it was like another $450 for hotel. So I mean, that's like $750, $800 to go there. And usually I'm okay with that. In previous years, Nova, for example, I know Ryan's going to Nova, and I've been to Nova almost every year. Like, I don't mind, because I even pay probably a little bit whatever I don't pay in the con passes, because Nova Con is a lot cheaper than Gen Con passes. I pay in plane tickets and stuff like that, right? But I'm typically fine with it, because I get to see and hang out and be in an environment where there's a ton of people that I haven't seen in forever. And when I say a ton, I'm talking about like 60, 70 people, right? Like, that's kind of like what we can expect these days on a Swiss heat in most events. But we played on Saturday, which you would expect to be the busiest. Actually, was the least busiest out of the three heats that showed up, and there was 21 people. I don't know what the actual number was. It's on there. But 21 players. No, I was reading there, but anyway, there was very few people. So
now I get the store championships reference.
Yeah, it was 21 people. So we had, it looks like we had 26 on Thursday, 31 on Friday, and 21 on Saturday. So it's basically like three store championships put together, right? And then the three store championship cuts kind of all play for. Um, and so that was, and then on to top it all off for me personally is half the people that were playing on Saturday were all like Chicago people. Like I played Nick Sperry, I played Nick Tobin, I played Joshua. I can never pronounce that guy's name. Stachowski. Um, the Fair Games teal, and I was playing like Chicago people, the same people that I play every week in store championships. So it was for the amount of money that we paid, it was a little bit disappointing in that regard. Like I was hoping for like seeing people that I don't see on a regular basis. It was nice that D Yoon and Ryan Farmer showed up Saturday, so there were two people that you don't see very often. So it was nice that I got to see a couple. I also got to see Papa Tippett, which is oh, and I saw Coach. We went we were out late with Coach at Coach's, taking shots too late into the night when I had to wake up for the cut at 6 a.m. Um, but yeah, like the best part of X-Wing is usually the people you see and hanging out with a lot of people. And it just didn't feel like the attendance was there. Although Friday night at Coach, it was a great event, and it was still the best night of X-Wing. But most of the people I hung out with was people like Nate, Allie, Tim, Nick Sperry, Andrew, like all the Chicago people, which is people that we hang out here anyway with. So it felt more of a local event than Gencon, which Gencon used to be like.
Right. I mean, do you think that's because it's spread out amongst 3 different days, or do you just think it's because it's a major like convention? Because like Nova, Adepticon, those are like miniatures focused. They have other things too, but pretty focused on the miniature, so more niche crowd. Whereas Gen Con's kind of wide open gaming
Yeah,
for all
I
types.
hope, and like we'll see how some of these other events play out. I hope it's the price tag that drove people away. Because, like I said, Kayla and I combined was close to $400 before we even talked about food and drinks and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that's like $400 a person. That's a lot for an X-wing tournament. So I hope that it like the price tag is really what scared people away, because if you're only coming for X-wing, it's not really worth it. But if you're like I saw Duncan's post, Duncan Howard, and he was talking about like he did laser tag, and then they did other events, and then they were
Sure.
demoing stuff. So if you're doing like the whole convention thing and you're partaking in like everything else that is not miniatures, that a convention of that size offers, it makes sense. Like you're gonna spend that money. It's like going to Disneyland. You
Hmm.
spend a ton of money at Disneyland, but you partake in a lot of the stuff. But if you're only going there for an X-wing, and the people that are invested in X-wing but not so much invested in tabletop gaming in general, I think Gen Con is probably not the best option, just
Sure.
again because of the price. But we'll
I mean,
see. Like
with Store
Nova's coming soon.
Champion, with Store Championship season, like it hasn't been hard to find X-wing as well. So maybe that factors into it. People aren't longing for these like major events because they're having more store championships, more store like monthly tournaments to get their X-wing fix on.
Oh, and Greg was there too. I see Nickel City X-wing. Yeah, Greg was part of the whole. So it was almost all Chicago people, but Greg's honorary Chicago.
Honorary Chicago. That checks out. Well, that's good. Well, Marcel, I mean, floor is yours. How did you do? What did you fly?
So I flew the list that I flew last week at the store championship. It did well, which is Anakin 7B with Daredevil and R4P. And then I flew Rick Olay with Daredevil R4P. Click with double target locks. Oddball in the Siege of Coruscant arc. And Slider with Lone Wolf. And day one, I went 4-1. I lost to Nick Sperry, who I will talk about later, did really well. Went undefeated in both Days of Swiss and ended up top overall, and then lost in the top four. And out of the 5 games that I played on Saturday, 3 of them were against Paul Heaver's list. So 3 of them were against 3 arcs, Padme, and the 3 arcs, Padme, and Anakin. So that list is in in full force. Like I did not play a single Han. I don't think there was. I think the only 3 people playing Han was Kayla, Ryan Farmer, and DU. I think were the only Han players that day. Now 2 of them made cut. Ryan Farmer and DU both made cut. So Han's still good, but people are
It's not
moving
auto
away from
win
it.
anymore. It's
Well,
not
I
just
mean,
your opponent can't handle this.
yeah. I mean, they both made cut, so that's like more than half of the solo people making cut. At least from the people
Yeah.
that I knew were
I thi-
playing solo.
And I think one of the Hans on Thursday was Boy Han. So
Wow.
a little spicy.
So you made it to, you played Sunday.
Yeah, so I played Sunday and I played Zach Bart. The first game we were both 4-1, so it was basically you lose, you're out. And it was a really tight game. He was flying a Rebel list without Han Solo, so he actually was. We'll go through his list in a second,
Sure.
because he
Yeah.
made the top 2, so we'll break those down a little bit more. But that was a really close game, and he won 14-13, and it really came down to the final initiative roll, because we were playing what is it, the press
Scramble.
buttons. Yeah,
Press the button.
buttons. Yeah, so the final round, if I move first, I press the button and I win by 1. And he blocks, because we were both moving into the same spot with our initiative 6s, with his Fen and my. So, and if he moves first, he moves, presses a button, and then I bump into him. I can't action. So it was one of those. It was a really close game, and he won the initiative roll. So he moved first, pressed the button, and then I moved and bumped behind him, and that was really the decider in the game. So it was really tight game. And I also lost the follow-up game. That was probably the only bad variance game I had, like game 7. Yeah, because Saturday, it was like, they ebbs and flows. Sometimes you get good dice, sometimes you get bad dice. They come in bunches, but round 7 was probably the only one where it started off rough and it maintained rough. I lost that one 20-15. But I was happy because it was the guy's first major tournament, and he actually made top 8, got his templates, and he was super excited about it. And I was kind of happy for him to do that.
Was he using cardboard still?
No, he wasn't using cardboard, but he didn't
Okay.
have like the, like his first
Yeah.
like non-store level event,
Yeah.
and he made the top 8, and there was some really cool templates. Like that's why I stayed and played game 7, because I really wanted those templates too. So
Can you
I was happy for the guy.
Can you review? So 3 days of Swiss. Can you go into detail about what was Sunday?
Yeah, so it was you played 5 games during your Swiss round, and anybody with either 4 wins, 11 points. So you needed 4 wins, or you needed 3 wins and 2 draws. So anybody with 11 points advanced to Sunday. Sunday, your MOV and your SOS, or your mission points, I don't think it's MOV anymore. Your mission points and your SOS, strength of schedule, were wiped off. But your win points, like if you won 4 games, you had 12 points. Like your win points carried over, and you only played 2 games. So there was 2 games, and then it was cut to the top 4. So the strength of schedule would only apply for Sunday. It's only 2 games. So if you did lose your first one and you dropped, you were kind of putting your opponent that beat you in a rough spot, because then they would not, that would almost disqualify them automatically. So yeah, so that was it, and it was only a cut to the top 4 after that point. And
Okay, then the top 4, obviously, then elimination rounds.
yeah, where is the final heat?
So was able to still get a bunch of players in, but it sounded like you played 4 rounds then, or would have played 4 rounds.
Yeah, if you needed to win, like Tyler and Zach played a total of 9 games,
9
5
games.
on their Swiss and 4
So
on Sunday.
Interesting.
essentially, it's still like a normal cut then, except the people that had 1 loss could leave. Essentially,
Well, it's the undefeated
first 2.
people have. It's not elimination for the undefeated people going into Sunday. So if you were 5-0,
Yeah.
you could, in theory, lose Game 6, win
Which
Game
is-
7, get into the cut.
Yeah, which is actually an interesting, it's interesting, I like it better than just like a straight 32, because it rewards your good Swiss play, and it rewards you playing out your 5th match to get that 5th win instead of just advancing to the cut.
that is true. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like one of those where it gives it the feel of, when you're running like if you guys play chess actually, or any like other tournaments, they do like a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket.
Mhm.
It gives you the feel of like a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket. So when you lose, you still have like another opportunity to play. So even if you went undefeated in Swiss, it still gives you an opportunity to lose on Sunday, one of your first 2 games, and still not be eliminated. Where if you're doing a cut, top, it was how many, 14 players. So if you did a top 16, let's say, somebody who went 5-0 loses on the top 16, and then they're automatically eliminated. So I do like that it makes it feel like a little bit of like a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket kind of coming to the end.
Rewards you for having a 5-0 Swiss day.
Yeah. Which I think is, which I wish I would have had in 2019 Worlds.
Or
Maybe
even
a little
this,
bias.
or even this weekend, having a 5-0 going into the cut, or going into Sunday would have been nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
so
I guess with it being an odd number of players, that also kind of made it weird for buys, right?
Yeah. Well, there was an even number of players on Sunday. There was 14, but Ryan had to drop. He wasn't feeling well. Ryan Farmer.
Yeah, Farmer. Yeah.
So he had to drop, so that made it an odd number, and Crispy ended up getting the buy.
Mhm.
And basically the way that Chris Allen explained it to the 13 of us is the way that Roll Better handles buys. Crispy, whoever got the buy, Crispy in this case, would be automatically eliminated because he would have the weakest strength of schedule. So he
Compared to the
around.
other, like, X and ones or whatever.
Exactly. So he flipped it around to where the person who got the buy was basically given, like, if you win your round 7, you're in, because it was either one extreme or the other. It's either you're automatically eliminated before even playing any games, or you're gonna play with strength of schedule as you win, you're in round 7. So it was again, it's not perfect, but I
would rather not automatically eliminate one person.
Yeah, because then it's like
Hey, your opponent dropped. So did you. Congratulations.
So did you? Yeah, here's your drop sheet.
but,
Yeah, I would rather that and let, like, at least give those other people that didn't get a buy a chance to like you could just win your games, right? So, I mean, I feel like that's
Oh,
fair.
yeah. And before we go down into like the numbers of who played and all that other stuff, I do want to make sure that and I know I'm disappointed in the turnout, and I'm disappointed in not seeing and hanging out with the number of people that I'm used to hanging out with. I don't think I'm gonna do LVO, but I might go to Philadelphia. I forgot the name of it.
PAX? PAX
PAX.
East?
Yeah, I might go to PAX, and I will definitely be at LVO, and I'm hoping the numbers are better. But Chris Allen and the judging crew, like perfect. Like they they were attentive. They made tough calls. The communication was very like there was zero confusion about what was going on, and everything felt fair. I didn't see anybody like there was no, probably also because it's such a tiny tournament, but everything ran perfectly. So big ups to Chris and the people that were running that event, because it was really well managed.
How is this
And
man
we were
not,
out on time.
like, fully? How is this man not like just fully employed by AMG at this point?
Well, it
Or
should
just,
be.
like,
They've never
like,
employed judge staff before.
yeah, because he is just like cannot do wrong kind of thing. A genius when it comes to this kind of stuff. And if I'm having any kind of like big event, I'm really hoping that Chris is running it because
Yeah.
in not that any other option is bad, but like I know that like there's gonna be no worries if Chris is running it.
Now I did notice, while we were playing on Saturday, every time that somebody said "Judge" and screamed really loud, D Yoon perked up every single time. They said "Judge,"
Yeah.
and D Yoon was like I'm ready. And then oh no, wait, I'm playing. Like,
He's got that like that muscle memory.
he's got
built
the
into
muscle
him.
memory. He's like, I got it. Oh wait, no,
Yeah.
can't go.
Yeah, it's the same thing of like when a mother hears a baby crying. It doesn't have to be her baby, but she'll still perk up. Oh, well, that's good. I mean, we can rely on Chris. He's always been above average. Probably the best. Trying to be the best, you know.
But he
Organizer
put a lot
out
of time
there.
and effort before Worlds doing a lot of tournament research, and he's not afraid to make the necessary calls. He will go into all the necessary conversations with his other judges for calls, and will always double check and be very communicative to you to let you fully understand the rules that he's ruling on.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
Yeah,
that,
it's
and I
it's
think
never.
also Chris has a really good way of being assertive without being a jerk. So I think that's a just personality gift that he has. That he has a way of, like, when he makes a call and that's his call, of doing it in a way that is not like, like some people are like, I'm big boss, you do,
He's,
or
he's,
it's just
Sure.
he's assertive and direct, but he's not aggressive.
yeah, and
Yeah,
he's nice, and he tells you like, hey, this is just the way we're gonna do it, and it doesn't come, like you said, it doesn't come across as aggressive or arrogant or anything like that. He's got a really good way of
He definitely
communicating.
he ends his sentences with a period, but there's always room for discussion. Is essentially like the way I think about it.
And if he will when there's time, he will take the time if you have questions and would like to talk about things more. If you're questioning a call or a rule and want to talk with him, he will do that. He might specifically ask to say, I will find time with you later when we can. He will do it. And, just do it in good faith. The man does not have a lot of time for everything for everybody. So just as long as you take the time yourself to try and educate yourself through the X-Wing rules, references, and anything else through the cards as best you can, it is well worth the time if you have a question to make sure you have prepared yourself. Not like for the test, but like One of the few things
He will test you.
If you go to him and you haven't like done any attempt at trying to figure out the answer yourself, he might just be like, "Just read this right here. It's right here."
Yeah, and like decisions that he makes are not like, oh, I just kind of made like a snap decision. Like, no, he has like thought out this decision 5, 6, 7 times, and this is the conclusion he's come to every time. So,
Usually
um,
with a judge team, he doesn't.
yeah,
he
usually
doesn't
not
like doing
not
it
alone
himself
with a judge
directly.
team.
Yeah.
Now I did give him. I wouldn't say give him a bad time, but I did question one of his choices, and he held his ground. It was Sunday, so we paired, right? We did the pairings, which were already done from the day before, but because Ryan dropped, he repaired, and then we were all basically getting ready to do our turn one, and right before the game started, Tyler noticed that all the undefeateds were playing somebody that was X and 1. And so Tyler's like, hey, like, none of the undefeateds are playing each other. Like, something's wrong with the pairings. And as they were trying to figure out, like, what to do, the natural thing would be, like, we'll just redo the pairings and make sure that the people are, playing who they're supposed to be playing. Whatever happened. But when he did that, he decided to redo the pairings, but guarantee Crispy the bye versus just redoing the pairings all out. Which I thought is like, if you're gonna redo the pairings and the machine's gonna randomize it, just let the machine randomize it, instead of like adjust the machine so that the machine doesn't, guarantee somebody the you win one game you're in. It's because it's kind of like a lottery ticket. And I questioned him on it, and that's one of the things that he said, like, nope, that's the way we're doing it. And I didn't push it. I just questioned it. He's like, that's the way we're doing it. That's the way they're doing it. I mean, they're the TL. But yeah, that's the only time that I questioned his choice. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I didn't bother to ask because I just got ready for my game.
Sure, I'm sure there's. If it's Chris, I'm sure he had a researched answer for it. But let's dive in to the final tables lists. We've been talking a lot about the Galactic Republic. So I'm going to go over Tyler Tippett's. Congratulations, Tyler, with a second major win for X-Wing. Won Adepticon 19, which feels like 100 years ago. But awesome to see. The X-Wing's not a dice game. We still have the same players placing high. So that's always good to see. Though, this list, I'm not excited to read out. So this is Galactic Republic. This is Anakin Skywalker in the Siege of Coruscant Ada. That is the standard loadout. Anakin. Brian, you know exactly what's on it. What is exactly on the SOC? I know it's like ESC, or auxiliary ion cannons.
Yeah, ancillary ion cannons. It has, which is a 2-charge thing. Basically, you spend 2 charges to do it. You can use it basically every other turn to try and count your crits as ion tokens when they get hit. It's not like an ion cannon where you have to hit and then you get to deal your ion tokens. It's straight up crit is ion token. Okay. Anakin has malice, so hey, crit generation, very cool. And has R2D2 Republic Astromech. Same exact, I'm pretty sure.
Same ability.
Upgrade one.
Even says shield on it too.
Yeah. And then he has his abilities a little different from his a custom counterpart. People who know the custom version of Anakin know that he would normally remove a red token or a non-lock red token, I believe. Or it could just be red overall. And when he lands amongst mostly enemy ships, Whereas in this version, he can barrel roll when he finishes fully executes his maneuver, and there's more enemy ships than friendly ships at range 0 to 1 by spending force.
Okay, so almost acts like an Aether Sprite's Find 2 controls. Spend the force, get a barrel roll. But very conditional.
Mhm.
Okay. And of course, they have that system phase reposition, like all Aetas do. Spend the force to
Yeah,
boost and barrel roll.
don't forget if you've done a system phase reposition, make sure you remember that you did that one already. I know Tyler, I don't know if he brought them with him, but he
Yeah.
likes having tokens with him that specifically have like barrel roll icon on one side and boost on the other. Whichever one he does in the system phase, he puts him next to his Anakin, so he knows, and
Yeah.
opponent is reminded that he's already done that reposition action.
Yeah, it is very helpful. I've seen those tokens around, and when I do play Adas, I do put a similar token out there of like, this is my barrel token, or this is my reminder kind of thing.
No, that's smart. That's smart. We have a lot of the Siege of Coruscant arcs. We have Oddball, Wolf, and Jag. They all shoot veteran turret gunner. Oddball gives out locks. Wolf can use other people's locks and has a reroll out the front and an extra die out the back, conditionally. And then Jag can pick up free locks for people that are shooting. So it creates this Oddball can shoot, give Jag a lock. Wolf can use Jag's lock with Wolf Pack, and then give Jag a second lock. So really fully modified between those three arcs. And then, an unexpected up-and-comer this season, Padme Amidala in the N1 Starfighter. Now just 4 points with marksmanship, passive sensors, and proton torpedoes. So you roll up, get your full throttle evade, and you pop passive sensors, wait for your turn at initiative 4, and then can acquire a lock to fire those proton torpedoes. We've talked a lot with Paul in the last podcast about Padme, how Padme really shuts down these Bistan Hans. They can't reroll dice, they can't mod these extra focuses, though you do need to be in Padme's arc. So if you can arc dodge, you can get around that ability. But for a lot of ships who just take a single focus token, turning all focus tokens essentially into calculates, it's even worse than that if you have multiple modifications like Han does. It's very surprising to see that ship just run house out here. But I mean, James, you're a big fan of it. It is just demoralizing against some attacks. If you roll out all eyeballs on attack or defense, you just look silly out there. Only modifying a single dice.
Oh yeah, rolling up and seeing someone roll a bunch of focuses, and then I just like take all but one of them and put them to the side and say these are not yours anymore. These are mine. You can't touch them anymore. You only get to touch this one.
Yeah.
It is it is pretty demoralizing. I definitely do that. Like, hey, like, those are dead. They can't be touched. Those are dead dice. And it is pretty rough, but if you dodge her arc, she doesn't really. It's just a N1 with a torpedo.
So I got going back to the AMG, I think it was on Twitter, but the AMG message that got sent out, or the FAQs, I think it was their FAQs, where they talked about the before we expected like point changes during new product releases or every 6 months. That was like the expectation, and they came out and said no, not really. Like our view is we change things when they're necessary. So I'm just wondering at which point I have two questions, and I think it's a good discussion if you guys are up for it. One of them is at which point is this list meet that threshold? And we'll talk about like how many people showed up and what they did with it. And if it does meet that threshold, which elements of it meet that threshold? Is it just Padme? Is it Padme's loadout? Is it her primary ability, or the fact that she can also toss out 4 dice uh, with an evade and focuses for defense, or is it the ultra efficiency of the 3 Siege of Coruscant arcs that are? I don't think it's Anakin. I mean, originally when the points first, I was like Anakin 4 points, but I don't think it's Anakin. Um, or is it like the 3 Siege of Coruscant arcs that really just create this ridiculously efficient both offense and defense for a list? So
When you say
elements of it?
efficiency, you're referencing the amount of dice modifications. As I was saying, Oddball gets free locks, Wolf gets
Yep.
free stuff, Jag gets free stuff. Everybody's getting free stuff. In addition to getting free locks, it lets them take their primary action as focus and can use that Born for this to sling it out to Padme and Anakin, giving them a way to be
Defensive modifier.
defensive.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so all the offense and not all, but just all 3 ships have a way to get multiple offensive modifiers and defensive modifiers in most of their engagements. And I'm saying most because usually once you're into the mix of things, Oddball will be bumping and will be taking that stress focus to give himself a target lock or give a friendly a target lock. So at what point does this list meet that threshold? Again, I told you guys, but we haven't mentioned that in the cast. Out of the 5 games I played on Saturday, 3 of them were against, copy paste this list, like not a single upgrade. Well, I don't even think well, Padme would be the only one that has it. But I played this exact list 3 times.
Yeah, there's not too many customizable upgrades around here.
Yeah, and then like I mentioned, like I beat this list 3 times, but I don't think I beat this list. I'm trying not to sound rude.
Like if you were going against Tyler,
there were decisions made, and there were choices made with the people that I played against that I was like, oh, I can take advantage of this. I don't think that Tyler, Paul, or other people that have had more practice with it, or even the same people that I played this time, because I think most of them picked it up after they saw the Paul's results. Even the same people that I played this time, if I played them 3 weeks from now, I may not have been able to beat them 3 weeks from now because they had more reps and more.
Or maybe even just like later on, like on Sunday, after getting like 5 games under your belt.
Yeah. You start figuring out like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, maybe don't deploy like that.
It's just the amount of efficiency and the amount of modifiers on offense, defense, and red dice that it throws, and they all have veteran tail gunner. Like they're all shooting twice, as well as it. I mean, potentially shooting twice. It's
So
insane.
to go back to your question, me personally, I don't have a problem with Anakin and Padme at 4. I mean, they could go down pretty easily, but
I have a problem with Padme loadout, not Padme at 4. I think Padme at 4 is good. I think passive proton combo is a bit much for her, but
you just swap it out for plasmas.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think like passive plasma would be fair because it would punish like the arcs, the Lukes and stuff. I'm not Lukes.
So you're
the
saying
arcs and the
bring her
Hans,
down to 12 loadout. So you have either passive plasma or you could just go full proton. Have a little bit of a choice there.
I think that's still a good 4-point ship. Yeah.
Sure.
So, to further clarify, like, and build on what Will is saying, you're saying the arcs may be the problem, and I think you and I have just
and a little bit of
talked
the
about
Padme
this.
loadout, but yeah, the arcs I think are the problem. All 3 of them being that. I think 2 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, I think all 3 at 4 is where the problem is.
So then let me come back at you with this then. So let's imagine a world where only where all of these arcs are 5 points still, right? No, just hold on. So let's say oddball, you take oddball and wolf, or whichever 2 you like, right? And then you swap one of those for a Z. Is this still a good list?
No. No. Arcs F5
you-
were terrible before.
You're
Absolutely
saying
terrible.
if you have the 3 arcs,
Yeah, you
Anakin, and instead
change
of
one of these. Yeah, change one of those arcs to a Z, a 2 Z.
so I think that okay. Let me put it this way: if you keep this list exactly the same, however the points load out, right? Go. You have all 3 arcs, and you have Padme exactly the same, and you swap out Anakin for an objective slider with just going out catching objectives. I think the list is still top tier. So I think
So
Anakin
you're going
brings
the
it
other
over.
way.
Yes.
You just drop Anakin, and you go down to a 2 Z.
Yeah, I mean, but that the math doesn't add up because that
Well,
would be 21
if there's
points if
only
they're all
one
at 5.
4. Yeah, if there's only like if Jag was the only 4 kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I saw Ryan making faces, but in most games, Anakin is good, but Anakin is doing. I mean, frankly, is doing cleanup most of the time. Is
Sure.
the 3 arcs and Padme
when
are
stuff
doing
is
the work.
low and he's I6, he can put himself in there and try and finish him off before another ship can shoot again. Yeah, that's good.
But it's still a good list. Like I would not. I would still be afraid of 3 arcs, Padme, and then objective monkey.
So this might come off a little harsh, because I don't mind entertaining these conversations. It is interesting to think about tinkering with things and what could still be good. What's the core? What's actually making this thing work? But I think this list is a really good example of the reason why Marcel Paul talked about this last week. It's not an easy list just to pick up and play. Not a lot of people have experience playing 3 medium base ships and a small base ship that wants to go fast, all work cohesively together in some level of movement, maybe not specifically formation, that keeps them within the bubble of Born for This, and especially Selfless on Oddball, right? So you're talking 3 levels of initiative, only 2 of them sharing the same one, being Wolf and Padme at I4. And not only that, it's a list that has only the medium bases can barrel roll, and if Padme wants to do any repositions, she's not shooting a good gun at all. And Anakin, a lot of people, and I think Dion talked about it with us on through our messaging with Discord, that when he played this exact list. He was like, I don't know what to do with Anakin. I know what to do with all these ships. Go jousting and destroy stuff, but I don't know what to do with Anakin. Some people don't know how to utilize the Ada. It's a very weird ship. It's not. It can't double reposition. It can only single reposition. And if it repositions, it's either in system phase, which not a lot of people are super comfortable or familiar with, or if you do it in your activation, like, you don't get an evade token, which is pretty valuable to help keep Anakin alive. Paul talked about how sometimes if your Anakin's running by your other ships with Born for This, and especially Selfless, Anakin should be trying to take target locks and make his shot matter more, and maybe try and bait some of the shots to come at him so it keeps the arcs on the board longer. But I think when you're the opponent looking at it, not only people who are trying to get used to playing it, because like you said, only a few people probably have given this list any real amount of time to understand how it needs to move and deploy and put obstacles down. And that's the other big wrinkle for opponents that they need to look at considering. This list is probably the best jousting list currently in the game. There's not a lot of stuff that could square up to it, across from it, and be comfortable beating it. There might be a list that can 50-50 that joust, but a lot of times the arcs and the Padme's the small wrinkle. You can't mathematically account for Padme, but when it happens, it can make the arcs live just that little bit longer, or delay the death of an arc, or Padme, or anyone, right? It's not something you can mathematically figure out in a dice calculator to figure out if the joust favors one or another at certain ranges, etc. So, with that in mind, you're thinking, okay, here's the best jousting list. How do I fight this? right? And we know that they are pretty strict on some of their movements around the board. So one thing is to be able to know how to maximize obstacle deployment so you can mess up how they move as best as possible. The arcs are kings of the middle of the board with VTG in medium bases. If you want to be in the middle of the board, like you better hope the arcs don't also want to be there. But they do. Spoiler alert, they do. When you're in obstacle placement, don't create the Thunderdome. Don't make a circle around the middle and let it be open. Like you just made the Thunderdome that they want to be in, and you're stuck in there with them now.
Yeah, you're stuck in there with them.
Yeah. You want to put obstacles in the middle and tight. You want to make them move around it to get to you. And this comes with like, okay, now we're going back to like not old school, but like people need to think about how they approach, right? You need to have multiple prongs of attack. They don't need to be super spread out, but the arcs need to have to pick something to go after. Generally, you want 3 attack vectors, whether something that would have been a straight joust against them, but you slow that one up. You move things fast along the board. Something's cutting in from the middle, and your fastest stuff is cutting in a little bit deeper on an angle, right? And in a way that that list can't turn and look at multiple of those attack vectors. You can only look at one, which leaves the other ships time to help burn things down. And then you have to, start to analyze what's my correct target priority. Spoiler, it's not Padme. Padme might feel bad, but between her evade, selfless, and 3 born for this focuses, she is not going down easy. Should you take out Oddball? He's got selfless. He's providing the defense for the little bit of ticket defenses for the list, and you want to take an arc off the board. You could go for Oddball. But Oddball isn't the highest damaging arc in the list. Wolf and Jag kick out the most damage easily. Probably Jag even, because he gets the full target lock. Whereas Wolf only can either use the target lock from Jag will just get back anyway, or use his reroll with Wolf and then the back arc 3, which also can really hurt. So Wolf's VTGs are really dangerous. So Oddball's really there to keep the other 2 arcs alive as long as possible. So that's when you have to take all that into consideration, because what this list basically says is there's not a lot of like, oh, if I take this upgrade, I'm gonna have a like X percentage, like much higher percentage chance of beating this list. Like, sure, Mag Pulse could be a good thing to take in some lists, but it shouldn't be like this is the one reason I can beat this list now is because I took a Mag Pulse on my Von Ray, something, right? There's a lot more tactical things you have to do and consider to have it all layered together to give you a much better chance to beat them. That's what the best jousting lists in the games tend to do. They force you to do different things that you're not used to doing.
So, to go back to the questions that I had originally, and again, I understand that they're beatable, and I did beat all 3 lists that I faced with it, or against it, not with it, faced against it. And even if, like, I feel like I have a chance, right? Like, I feel I have a chance. I think the issue comes with, and the question about, at what point do you start making, I wouldn't call it emergency, but you start considering changes, is when you go to a tournament, and in that tournament you're playing, let's say 75% of the field is list A or list B, or a variation, or list A or in a variational list B, and only 25% is like more unique and like first order separatists and things like that. So if you're going to a tournament and you're playing 3 of these Republic lists and 2 Hans, and then you go to the next tournament and you play 3 Hans and 2 of these Republic lists, and then you go to the next tournament and you play 4 of these lists, at some point, even if you figure out a way to beat them, and I know you say, well, if you beat them, then then less people are going to fly them because people are learning how to play against them, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, we all know, and we do know, like there are such things as one, skill level, and two, there's also such things as like how much time and effort people put into it. Like a lot of time, people will not spend, do 15, 20 games of practice going into a tournament. They won't go on, they won't bust out, the three arcs, or the way to beat the three arcs into their kitchen table and just do solo reps over and over and over again, or TTS reps. That's just not what's going to happen. People, the majority of the people, I think, just see what's doing well, play that, or see what's doing well and mind, in their head, think like, okay, how would I beat that, and show up, but not actually put, like true practice. Like very few people, I think, actually do true practice. And that leaves a situation where, again, you're playing against the same list more than half of your games, or maybe two lists more than half of your games, and it becomes stale. It becomes, I I lost against Nick Sperry, uh, but that was a more enjoyable game because I played. It was a different puzzle. It wasn't like a beef puzzle. It was like, oh, he's playing a bunch of aces and a bunch of 3 agility stuff. I gotta figure out. I lost, but it was a different puzzle, and it was fun trying to figure out that puzzle versus, like the same, like playing the same level over and over again.
I
So
mean, up until LSO, when Paul brought out that Republic list that is now being more predominant, it was just the Han stuff. And it only took 2 weeks for another list to show up and shake up the meta, right? We've only had 2 lists so far that have done this essentially. Sorry, 2 general types, because technically Han there's a 5-ship Han and a 4-ship Han that have both been very successful. And now we've added the arc list into the mix. That makes Han's life a little more difficult to try and get through Swiss. But who's to say, right, that the next event, someone throws another wrinkle into it, right? That's the thing. People were already calling for, like, I'm concerned about Han. I think this might need an emergency thing. I don't think he should be able to have all the toys that he currently has, etc., etc. But then LSO happens, and I'm not hearing that much anymore. There might be some people who still are a little tired of Han, but they're now seeing more of the arcs and whatnot, and whether or not they feel close to the same way. Everyone's different. But who's to say that Nova or any of the many upcoming World Qualifiers has some other ring, another faction that found the secret sauce they needed to participate in this meta, that is, and by participate I mean like can compete with the top lists while still making it through an average Swiss, where most of the time you're gonna have to fight other stuff too. Because if you only plan for 2 things, you may not ever fight those 2 things, even with the percentages that we're seeing, which honestly aren't that high right now. The amount of times they're being taken.
Yeah, so what's the magic number of like, because I get your point. Like the new wrinkle may come out, and somebody finds out, like, hey, you know what? This separatist list with Django and these other, or Dirge and these other ships, just like can really do something. You never know, something, right? But
I don't
at
think
what
there's
point,
a
like, does
magic
it take?
number.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, does it take 3 events? Does it take up until December? And we've had like 5 world qualifiers that.
I'll let AMG decide that personally, but I always think metas take so long to fully flush out, and they they evolve, and the speed at which they evolve is different every time. But
it's faster.
I've generally thought a lot. Some of the emergency stuff in the past has maybe been a little knee jerk. I'd rather see things play out. Like, honestly, I hope that the points that they had starting the most recent update Go all the way to Worlds. Do a traditional whole year.
You're breaking my heart, Ryan, and I'm gonna hold. I welcome minor knee jerks, not like knee jerk. We're gonna, shuffle everything, toss it up. Like Han Solo, yeah, he's doing well. Okay, let's give him 3 months to shine. Yeah, dump him. Not dump him, but like
I
adjust
would
him.
think that
Like
if they
I
ever
like that
consider a review
continuous.
time, it's the 6-month period. So
Yeah.
December, which would be when there may be a talking point of like, is there anything that's like just a little too much? Maybe.
I don't feel like either of these lists, or really both of them combined, even, are as bad as stuff like, or as prevalent as stuff like Four Whisper, or Four Phantoms, or the Nantex.
It won 2 in a row. So let's see if it won 2 in a row. I know people that are already thinking of taking this for Nova that they weren't sure about. I wanted to say people because I didn't know if you wanted to call yourself out, but I'm sure
It
you're not
should-
the only
honestly,
one.
everyone should
And-
always have, just in case, the top meta picks as a possibility for any event
Yeah.
they go to, whether it's
In
Han
my own
Fellowship,
household-
Han 5 ship, or this New Republic list.
Yeah, in my own household, there's a person not named Marcel that's already saying like, "This is my store championship list moving forward." Like, so the part that worries me so much about not, like, I genuinely feel I can figure out a way to beat it. Am I going to beat it every time? No, I can figure out a way to beat it. I think a lot of players that are willing to put in the time can figure out a way to beat it. The part that becomes upsetting for me is when I start facing the same list 3 or 4, like 60, 70, 80% of a tournament is figuring out the same puzzle. That takes away from the enjoyment of me participating in those, longer events, because it's figuring out the same puzzle. Even if you can beat that puzzle, it's not just about winning, it's about enjoying the games as you're playing them. It becomes a little stale.
It just turn into the SpongeBob meme. I keep teaching you this lesson, old man, to that list. Just keep beating it over and over, and then people might not show up and want to fight you anymore.
All right, we belabored the point.
Yeah.
Move on.
Will
Arcs-
any cap offs of that? I guess because you were kind of.
Oh no, arcs are good. You're gonna see them. I think is the crux. Is there? My only question to you guys about this: who excels at dealing with Padme's dice restriction? Is there anybody who can get around it or has like a way to deal with it?
When force users could just use their force and not have to spend their green token they've taken to change it. Palpatine in Empire can help. Palpatine
It's a
crew
different
where,
ship.
like anyone on the board is access to one if they need it, because the focus result on both sets of dice is either tied or at the lowest amount of results on the die. There's 2 of them on the red dice, same with 2 blanks on red dice, and then on green dice there's only 2, and that's the lowest on them. So it's already a low chance to get multiple of them. But when you do, you could either have force users or a shared token pool, whether it's Palpatine.
Yeah, I would say calculate, like sharing, calculate, like network calculations is great. Force is great. Palpatine is great. Something that gives you like one instance of a focus.
Anything that could take
is-
double calculate as an action.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
But nothing that gets around it. Even Han can't get around
No.
the.
Yeah, if anyone could get around it, it would be Han.
Yeah,
And,
but he specifically can't. That's the whole point.
he specifically can't. Yeah.
I mean, he could still re-roll his dice, but he can only re-roll one focus.
Yeah, and he can't change one of those focuses that he rolls into.
Correct.
So, I also think to kind of like push forward on the arc situation, not the Padme, of like what you've been flying, Will. I don't want to out your list.
I've only been
But
flying at All
I
Star
think it's
Championship season.
yeah, I think it's outed at this point. But Prockets of big dice. It's easy to line up on those medium bases. Gonna push some damage through. Like 2 Prockets could realistically take down an arc.
It's not even just prockets. Any secondary weapon that has a restrictive arc, like the bullseye, means if
Proton
oddball
cannons,
isn't in the bullseye arc,
That's true.
you can't selfless it because it's
Yeah.
by the attack arc. So your
Mhm.
proton cannons can still be good as long as you also don't have oddball in arc, unless you're trying to kill oddball anyway.
So yeah, proton cannons, heavy laser cannons, stuff that gives 4 dice. That's generally a lot harder to land for those bullseye shots. So, I mean, Cad Bane's a big fan right now, like throwing stress out there at people with a heavy laser cannon. Maybe
I mean, you sure could take a whole lot of T70s with HLC right now.
you sure can take a whole lot of
Sure can.
Temin loves it right now. Like Temin at I4 doing his boost with could link boost
Oh, yeah.
and then use his focus into a roll, still get the full 4 dice in the bullseye. He's like, yeah,
Oh,
give
yeah.
me.
Yeah, I mean, like if you take the 5 T70s, can you still take HLCs on all of them? I'm not sure.
Oh yeah.
Um,
You miss out
I
on some droids, but yes,
Okay.
you can.
5 T70. As in
Yeah,
like 4
yeah.
or 3 to 4 plus
Yeah,
Kaz or Lulo
Yeah.
or
you're
Or
getting
whatever.
three or more HLCs in there.
Yeah, easily.
Okay.
reasonable.
Okay.
Also, if you don't want to fully rely on the HLC, or maybe you do want to get a droid in there, I think crack shot is just as viable.
Yeah, that
Even
is
though
the
it's
same
once
thing.
per game, it does help with range 1s, and it's multi-use against other things in other matchups you may have.
Yeah, really good against
True.
3 agility.
All right. All good to know. If you are looking to win a world qualifier, you're gonna have to beat this list. So, speaking of a list that failed to beat it, let's move on to Zach Bart's list.
Now I want to know if Zach went through it at some point. Don't do
I'm
that.
sure he did. I was looking through the matchups. I would have to imagine he saw it at some point in time.
Yeah, he totally went through one of them.
All right, Ryan, you're very familiar with this new adaptation for Rebels. No Han.
Oh, Han less.
Hodless.
Yeah, so I am actually kind of familiar with this. This I think is more. I'm gonna give a little bit of credit to Caitlin Wong, who had been really championing this list, and he actually won he won a store champ with it over the weekend. He got his invite. This is a Rebel 5 ship involving Fen Rao with Crackshot Predator and Beskar reinforced plating, Bodica with Predator, Mando optics and Beskar reinforced plating, Sabine TIE Fighter with Lone Wolf, Luke being the Yavin Luke, and then Hera in the A-Wing with Magpulse warheads. And then that last point for Zach here, he chose Deadeye Shot, but you could do Marksmanship, you could do Hopeful. All of them have reasonable reasons why you'd want to bring them. A lot of people don't consider Deadeye Shot a lot, but Hera most of the time doesn't really want to mod her own shot even unless she is trying to use the Mag Pulse. So she could, if she's already shooting at a ship, has taken some damage. So I'm pretty sure some people don't even remember what Deadeye Shot even does because they're like, oh, Marksmanship or oh, Hopeful. Again, both still reasonable. But Deadeye Shot, while you perform a primary attack, if the defender is in your bullseye, you may spend one of your hit results or change a crit result to a hit result. If you do, the defender exposes one of its damage cards. Hey, we have a lot of high hull ships right now in the meta, so and Hera doesn't really want to spend her token. If she just gets one hit in there and there's a card, might kind of be reasonable, especially when she's I6 and could be shooting first. If she flips up, oh, I don't know, a hull breach or a structural damage, or a blinded pilot
direct-
before they shoot.
direct.
Like,
Direct.
pretty reasonable stuff that could
Yeah, direct.
spiral out of control, right?
Sure.
It might not ever do anything, but it's a 1-point upgrade, so whatever. Um, and Sabine, I've heard Kalen and Zach go back and forth. Beskar Plating or Lone Wolf, both are reasonable. They're not yet sure which one's more correct, but both make sense.
The more
One you
correct
like
one
to
is the one that you like.
More correct one is the one you get more wins with.
That's true. the
Results-based
math checks
thinking.
out.
Yeah, it's true. Just win. So that Hera running around means the Fen, the Boudica, and the Luke, whichever one's being targeted, it's going to be that much harder to kill because Hera is toting likely an evade when they need it, or if Hera has the chance to neuter a shot against any of her friends or herself, it has a reasonable way to do an easy mag pulse. And by easy one, I would say probably your one agility ships, your Hans, your arcs, racks, your choppers, maybe tie bomber if it's really dangerous. That may be a sat salvo barrage rocket with bullseyes threatening Luke's life or whatever. But
Yeah, going from 3 dice at range 3, reducing your agility, your range 3 bonus down to 1 dice, and you get your agility back is a pretty big difference for those bombers. They do not like jam.
yeah, no thanks. So the key really is getting Boudica to stick around as long as possible because she's kind of the bigs of the list, meaning she's the general the first priority target because if you start shooting other stuff and Boudica can also shoot you, Boudica can shoot you twice every turn. And with Fenrau running around, if Fenrau's ability can be triggered for Boudica, even if Boudica's special bonus attack from her ability happens first, if Boudica is at range 1, it has someone in range 1 in arc, and Fen's within range 1 to 2 of her, Fen can let her pull a red token off, which could be the deplete she got, which means she is shooting full dice both times.
True. Yeah, people don't think about Fen Rao for their ability to pull off red tokens, but it certainly helps out Hera and Boudica.
Could matter for a lot of, I mean, both Boudica and Hera, because Fen's ability does not work on himself, which is probably why a lot of people forget that Fen has ability. It has to work for other friends.
Right. I mean, even like Luke Talon rolling could clear his stress to Talon roll again, something like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna 4K, and then I'm gonna Talon roll, and then I'm gonna do a 4K again. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also,
pretty good.
sneaky thing you can do, if Luke can't lock someone, but Hera can, Luke just focuses. I mean, look, an instinctive proton torpedo that has a lock to spend for modification. What do you know? Actually, better
Yeah,
modded than the lock 2 force one.
Yeah, getting around the lock restriction and then being like, oh, now I have a lock. Yeah. So it's old school Hera before they fixed it.
Just because Luke has instinctive aim. Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. I have to imagine that the high initiatives, Fenrau and Hera, really making a big splash there to combat what I feel like every list has multiple I5s and I6s right now. So you need that initiative value, especially if you're going to be doing AC stuff, like linking boosts and barrel rolls.
Or just have a fighting chance against Han.
True.
Marcel, you said you faced Zach. How did you feel about this list when you went up against it? What was some of the target priorities you thought of going into it? Would you have changed much afterward, or just how did it feel?
I actually felt pretty fair, and it felt like a game. It didn't feel like I didn't feel outmatched at all. I didn't feel outmatched. I didn't feel like I was having to figure out too much of a puzzle. And again, I think it's more because of the list that I flew itself more than anything else. when I say that is I fly a list and a style that has me bring something up the middle, two ships kind of at a 45, let's say, and two really fast ships that come in from the back. So Bodica's ability is basically nullified because I it's the same thing with Padme. Padme's because the arc can only be pointing at one or two ships max. It's never really going to have the entire list in place. So if I want to shoot at Bodica, I'm not going to get punished for it. Um, and again, he beat me 14-13, and I win the initiative roll. I win 14-13 the other way around. It was like super close match. He did make some really good decisions. That, for example, he got a block on Rick with a barrel roll that kind of guaranteed he would get no shot, but Rick got caught up, and then he 4K'd his Fen Rao into range one of Rick without arc. So it was good. It was good piloting on his end that you know gave him the points and the things that brought him to a win. And I think likewise it was good piloting on my end, especially with Anakin, that kept it close. So it felt like a very evenly matched game, and I don't think we either one of us made any blunders. Let's call it blunders. None of us made blunders. We played he made really good choices. I really liked my choices. I wouldn't have done them any differently, and it ended up being a dice roll at the end of the game. Um, so that means, in my opinion, I thought the lists were evenly matched. I thought the skill level was evenly matched, and sometimes you win those, sometimes you lose those. But with a list that isn't, like corralling and going around and doing that, I can see how Boracay and like the throwing him the evade and having to survive two initiative 6 shots or the mag pulse missile and the proton torpedo. Like, I can see how all that can be really difficult to because you got to shoot at Bodica, and you may not want to shoot at Bodica because then after you kill Bodica, you still have Luke, Fen Rao, and Hera to deal with. After you do finally kill Bodica, and Bodica can just get in their range one and get all those free evades. So I can see how it's a really messy list to fly against. I just didn't. It matched up well with what I was playing, so that I wasn't that bothered against playing it. Is that answer? I forgot who asked it, but
No, your experiences facing it and just expound upon it. So yeah,
yeah. So I mean, I think just Zach. I don't think the list beat me. I think Zach's choices is what kept the game the way that it
I
did.
still felt like it could be a good list if someone else wanted to pick it up and try it out for future events.
Oh yeah, for sure. It made the final, and he beat everyone else. He beat me, and yeah, like, he won his games, and it's got a lot of the stuff that you want a list to have, which is way to share tokens, share rerolls, double modify shots, get free evades. So it's got all of the tools that you want, and high initiative. It's got all of the tools that you want a list to have when you're building one.
All right.
Awesome.
Makes sense.
Yeah. A great top 2 list there, though.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the other top 4 finishers here. We got Nick Sperry from the 312 Squadron, Chicago, bringing their Store Championship list with the boys, Tomex, Marcel, and Darth Vader. And I believe this is the starter pack Vader, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he chooses the objective-based one where you can press the button and get your lock You can actually barrel roll press the... No, wait. You can't barrel roll press the button. You have to
Yeah, you
press...
could.
No, you
No,
have
it
to
has to
press
be
the
your
button
first action.
first.
Got it. But you can do almost everything.
Yeah.
You can press the button, then you can barrel roll off of it, though.
And you could focus.
You can do all the actions. Notably, the
Don't forget
Merrick
to boost. You can boost. You can
does
boost.
have afterburners. Yeah, boost, objective, focus, lock, barrel roll. Really can do it all. The only person with really a customized loadout here, Marcel taking fire control system and shield upgrade, just adding to their consistency, raising the floor on Merrick, in my opinion. With that, being able to keep your locks around and having the extra health in there then too.
Does Starter Pack Vader have an extra shield, or he's still 3-2?
I believe he does have an extra shield. He's got shield, afterburners, hate, and ion missile, if I'm not mistaken. Which
That ion missile is clutch too.
it is actually pretty good. If you're shooting a 3 agility
Let's not
ship at
realize it's not nothing. You should use it.
3 agility ship at range 3 with shields. Yeah. How about this?
no, it
How about a
was,
little ion for you?
He beat me in Swiss, and my Anakin was at 1 hull, and I ranged 3, and that was like the difference. He had to kill my Anakin. He's like, only 1 hull left. Well, sure, ion missile. Now you only got 2 agility. Instead of doing a 3v3, it was a 3v2, and
Sure.
I'm not saying that was the difference. I mean, I could have whiffed on a regular, but at least mathematically, if he gets all his paints, he automatically wins.
Yeah. I mean, Magpulse has 3 charges. Like, it's in...
Ion.
Sorry. Ion has 3 charges. In a game where you're maybe shooting 7 times, if you get your round 1 shot, like, that's plenty of opportunities to use that ion. So awesome. I believe he went undefeated in up until the top 4.
Yeah, he went. Well, he got a bye on Saturday, and then he won the next 4, so he went 5-0. And then Saturday,
Oh, sure.
Sunday,
He played on Saturday, is what you're saying. Yes.
yeah, on Saturday, and then on Sunday he won the first match, and then him and Tyler did an intentional draw because they were both 6-0. So they
Sure.
just
They
shook
earned
hands
it.
and said,
They earned it.
Yep.
So I'll see you in the cup. Sure. Yeah, fantastic there. Really showing off what I-5 and those TIE fighters. I think I've heard him describe them like, those are not TIE fighters. Like, those are some other ship. Somewhere between an interceptor and a TIE fighter. But, I mean, I don't run them. I don't like the boys myself because I feel like they're forced together. But whatever he's doing is working out. To get them.
Keep on doing it.
Keep on doing it, yeah. I feel like Merrick gets demoted to objective duty then, which is kind of weird. But if he has a lock already, I guess he doesn't really care. But yeah, pretty interesting there.
That is funny.
Love to see the different variations. I feel like a lot of Empire lists are still running. You start your list with a Vader and Tomex. I mean,
Yeah.
and find 11 more points in your list of good ships.
Yeah. No marksmanship on Merrick is blasphemy, though. Come on.
No, you don't need it.
You don't need it.
Oh.
Though I bring marksmanship because I always, or not always, but I really like the focus linked barrel roll on them. Mm-hmm. Feels like less and less ships that I fly have linked actions, and when you can get them, like T-70s, the focus barrel roll on T-70s, I really love as well. So awesome job, Nick, holding up the Empire part of it, making sure that we all know the Empire still can compete. Then we have Crispy, as you mentioned, got into it, and now this is some real off-the-wall stuff. I know he's been flying a lot of 4-ship, high initiative, basically quad ace first order. but this time he's swapped in for 2 Barons, two BAs and 2 Whispers. So I'll run it down real quick and I'll let you guys break it apart. So Major Von Reg, that's the I-6 BA with Marksmanship, Lone Wolf, Deuterium Power Cells. That's the thing that can get you shields back for a deplete. And Magpulse missiles. We got Hollow. You know I love to see that Hollow out there with Proud Tradition, Deuterium Power Cells, and Magpulse warheads. And then Kylo Whisper. Their build, no instinctive concussions here. We have Brilliant, Malice, Predator, Pattern Analyzer, and the Jamming Suite. And then Wrath, which is the can double shoot if you have a bad token, or red or orange token. You shoot your primary and then a second attack. Your primary bullseye, specifically, has Predator, Marksmanship for those bullseye attacks. Ion Cannon, which is interesting because you can get your primary turret out the back and your ion cannon out the front. You become like a little fire spray flying around. And then I have Pattern Analyzer and the Jamming Suite. I know Crispy loves that Pattern Analyzer because you can, when you do the red maneuver, you can still link your focus jam or your reposition jam to be able to get 2 actions even while K-turning there. What is your guys' takeaway other than this is one of those lists where like super low floor, but man, the ceiling might be infinite on this.
This may be a Crispy only list.
Yeah. Not going to be replicated
So-
at your store championship soon.
Yeah, I gotta give it to Crispy. The amount of tinkering and the amount of list building potential that he has is
Yeah, if I'm not
overwhelming to me.
Marcel, if I'm not mistaken, we were when we were talking with him, he was putting blackout in there, and so Hollow.
Which he made the right call, obviously.
Right.
I'm not saying he wouldn't have made this far with blackout instead of Hollow, but I think I personally prefer Hollow with Magpulse over blackout with anything.
Sure.
Yeah, the Hollow with Wrath, especially. is
Wrath.
really
Pass
good.
all your bad tokens to Wrath. I would normally say Hollow doesn't work in quad ace because you need a dump, you need a Malorus, or you need something to dump your depletes and your strains to. But Wrath just loves them, gobbles them up.
Stress? Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Strain or even like strain or not strain. Deplete. He can get rid of that first shot, and then he still has another full attack.
Yeah, Wrath can get their own ability. You just jam yourself with the enhanced suite, barrel roll to line up the bullseye or whatever, and then just jam yourself for the double attack. Also works. Man, but the Ryan, Kylo without a missile though?
Oh, you better hit those bullseyes. And like to Crispy's credit, he does a lot of prep with these lists. He knows the Whisper chassis extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you aren't landing those bullseyes, and those Barons aren't getting some quality shots outside of like the Magpulse, because basically he titled this list the Fun Police, aka I'm nagging you and I'm like jamming you.
Yeah, 4 jams around.
Every single ship here can neuter your offense and or defense, which means it's allowing him to get a little bit more setup time, like going into the initial engage. Hollow's tossing an evade to someone from the back because Hollow's not shooting. Von Reg is coming in from an angle, getting a free mag pulse on someone. And then the Whispers are like pick their target and they're going. They're up the gut. Straight through wherever they need to get to the target they want. And as soon as possible, utilizing those pattern analyzers to harass and keep those front bullseyes mattering, because that range 2 bullseye jam is still extremely helpful if you don't need to get to range 1. And then just doing a red move with Wrath himself, like just turns on his ability automatically. Um, it is this is definitely in the category of this is a difficult list to fly. Anyone could do it, but you have to prep and know a lot about these ships and how their stages need to work. I mean, I've almost like a Dragon Ball Z fan myself. I've almost started calling Crispy Piccolo because he's just weighted clothing the entire time, but he's still beating people. It doesn't matter. he's he's still getting it done right. He's a master of his craft, and I mean,
Like
God forbid the one time he decides to like, all right, you know what? I will pick up that Han list, or I will
yeah,
pick up the
goodness,
R3 list.
you do not want this guy playing a good not a good list, but like
The higher floor lists,
higher.
right? And then he
Well,
finds
yeah.
the higher ceiling, right?
Yeah, he's just gonna like explode the ceiling. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's probably how I would frame it too. Is like, he handicaps himself. I'm not saying this list is a handicap list, but this list is definitely a, you know, uh, not able to sustain a mistake as well as the other lists. The other lists,
Yeah.
you set the wrong dial, you have a bad variance round. You know, that's what makes those lists so appealing to
Yeah.
people, is that like,
This is
maybe I
not
didn't
a
make the best choice, but I'm still in the game. This list and a couple of the other, actually, to his credit, actually, um, uh, Nick Sperry's list as well. Those are lists where you make a bad choice or you get a bad result, and you can crumble. Where some of these other Han lists or the triple arc lists, you can recover from it. So big, crispy for sure, and also just throw it out there for Nick as well, because those boys can get out of position and separate themselves, or just have bad variance and hit direct hit, and now you've got initiative 5 TIE fighter. you know
Yeah. And like Crispy, it's not like Crispy's like doing this to prove a point or anything. Like he believes, and I believe him because he's done it right. Like these are pieces he enjoys and can perform well with, and believes they all have reasons to being here. Right? He wouldn't have taken like a lot of reps and time to move from. I assume he did multiple ships, quick draw, blackout. Except there were so many 5 cost ships available. They're reasonable in first order. They come to this final conclusion where a lot of people are not thrilled to run a Whisper other than Kylo, just because it doesn't have a high floor. Like if you do something wrong, gone, right? Or a TIE Baron. Sure, Vonreg's I6. Someone looks at him wrong, and he also might just gone.
yeah. That
Um,
that
I,
is essentially the same thing as like one of those boys, right?
Mhm. Now, the nice thing that both these Barons have deuterium power cells
Yeah.
means they do have a little bit of forgiveness in that as long as you know you're going into a trade of fire, that you have a strong belief or mathematical odds to at least come out alive, but you've done the damage you want to do. You can do that, take your licks, leave, regen a bit, come back.
yeah,
And
with this list, I think,
and just harass them from trying to finish the ship off by neutering their offense, trying to track you
I
down.
don't I don't know what the top 4, and maybe it says it on there in the rounds, was. The not yeah the top 4 was chance engagement. Okay, I was just trying to see what he lost to Tyler with. I don't know. The part that wrecks my brain a little bit is I don't know how this list plays boxes, other than
It
you're
shoots
knocking them
mag
off with mag
pulse.
pulse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
It
shoot
shoots, it
mag
shoots
pulse
mag
at 'em.
pulses.
Everyone knocks them off,
Yeah.
probably.
It that's the thing. It doesn't play boxes. It plays chance engagement.
it plays it plays chance engagements with the other team not
I mean,
having actions.
as I mentioned, with the speed and the turn zero prep, Crispy does. Like, he goes fast with those whispers. He gets them into play, not so fast to where he's threatened potentially turn one, but he knows his distances. He
Yeah,
gets the
that
speeds right,
is
and he's got Hollow's evade backup for the ship that's mostly targeted.
that is interesting that none of these ships have the sensor scramblers, which is interesting to see. No sensor scramblers in an FO list, so that is pretty cool.
He loves
probably
those
not
pattern
going to be
analyzers.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, dude. Like that is a good upgrade
It's a
for
good upgrade.
for a ship that needs to be turning around. It has those 3 sloops, has those 4K. Do they have 5K as well?
They have a 5K.
It's 3 sloop 5K. Yep.
That's it. I thought it was 4 as well.
They have a regular 4K, 3 or 4K. Yeah, it's not just 5.
Oh yeah. Okay. So they're very much like a. Actually, you know what? Their dial's closest to Aether Sprite. Besides the fact the Aether Sprite does not have a 3 turn, it has 1
The
bank.
two and
And
the
they
two
have 2 sloops instead of the
sloop, yeah.
3. But
Mhm.
both of them have 4 and 5K and the same exact blues.
Yeah, and they don't have 3 turns,
Not the
right?
same exact. Sorry, not the 3 bank. 3 bank blue, pretty cool.
They don't have 3 turns, do they?
Aether Sprites do not. Like I said, they
Well-
lose the 3 turns for the 1 banks.
The one bet. I gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
The Whispers have a 3
Yeah.
turn, and their only
Yeah.
ones are 1 hearts.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, very well done, Crispy. Just reasserting your dominance of the FO field and literally putting the entire faction on your back.
I would
again.
like to note, so out of the whole top 4, right, you have Tyler, who's from Illinois, very close to Adepticon. Zach, who's from Indianapolis, reasonably close to Adepticon, and Nick Sperry, who lives directly in Chicago. Those 3 people recognized that they were all very likely already and easily able to make worlds with their invites and not needing extra travel expenses paid for or hotel. So they all collectively agreed that no matter what the outcome once they knew the top 4, that Crispy would receive the special invite that takes care of travel. So I think
That's
that
real
was
nice
one
of
of
them.
the coolest things I've heard.
Well, that's
of
just
players do.
good feelings.
Yeah, right. Like,
They wanted to put up those good vibes for when Crispy won it, anyways. You know.
Yeah, he is the fun police, but he does have good friends.
so yeah, another good wholesome moment for the X-Wing community. I don't think I've heard of something like that happening before, and I wanted to make sure that
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome to hear. Well, we're running low on time, so let's browse through some stats to round out the podcast here. Let me switch my screen off with this. James, give me some stats. We have them broken up by Swiss days at first.
Yeah, I can start off with the total, and then I can break
Sure.
them down.
Sure, whichever you
So
want.
total, we had a total of 78 players over the 3 days of Swiss. Rebels definitely taking a little bit of a higher, just a little bit higher, 28% of the field. Notably, though, something interesting is that they had the same number of Han lists as Scum, Separatist, and FO as a whole combined.
Is this for the whole event?
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah. So
For the whole event or for Thursday?
for the whole event.
Okay, so sorry, I missed it. So you said that there was as many Han
Han lists as they had people playing Scum, Separatist, and FO put together.
Got it. And how many was that?
13.
Okay, 13. And how many players were there total? Sorry, I zoned out.
78.
So it was a 78, all 3 days combined. Okay.
Yep. Of course, Republic was next as a close second at 24% of the field, 19 lists. Empire with 13 lists at 17% of the field. I think next is Resistance at 11 lists and 14% of the field. Then Scum with 6 lists and 8% of the field. FO with only 4 lists, 5% of the field, and Separatist with 3 at 4% of the field. So if they had faction prizes, those 3 factions are. It's like, here's your faction. Like as the first round starts, just here's your faction prizes. But breaking that down into the individual heats for Thursday, 26 players. The top 4 was all Republic that day. So pretty. Oh, sorry. It was all Rebel, right? Or was it Republic?
No, day 1 was all Republic that made it to Sunday.
Republic. That's right.
Thursday had. Count real quick here. It was 4 players who made it from Thursday to Sunday. All of them were Republic.
Yep. And only 2 of those, actually, only one of those was the variant, and it was Tyler that we've been talking about. But all the other ones were a little bit different. Even had a Y-wing in there in one of them. So there's definitely still variants to be found in the Republic faction.
Now, 3 of them were 3 arcs, and one of them was 2 arcs. So I think
it's still arcs.
There's still, yeah.
I didn't say that. Arcs plus thing. But there was actually 30% Rebel that day, 26% Republic, 23% Empire, 11% Scum, 7% Resistance, and no FO or Separatist that day. So, interesting day for Thursday. Mostly Republic, mostly Rebel. For Friday, we had 31 players. This was the busiest heat at 31 players. The top 4 was 2 Rebel, 1 Republic, and 1 Resistance. And
I would say top 6 because 6 people made cut on this.
Oh,
one.
top 6 made? Okay. Then there's another Republic, and Crispy is in there as well. Going into for the faction breakdown, it was 25% Rebel, 19% Republic, Resistance, FO, Empire, Scum, and Separatist, so all factions represented on that day. For Saturday, we had 21 players, which, as Marcel mentioned, was the fewest number, which is historically, to my understanding, has generally been the busiest, right?
Yeah, normally Saturday's the most.
Yeah. So, not sure if there was just everyone said, "Oh, we're not playing Saturday. We're playing on Friday." But looking at the top that made it into the cut, we have let's see, 2 Rebel, 1 Republic, and 1 Empire. Yep. So
Total cut numbers here because I did forget about that, which we can get pretty easily.
Yeah. But looking at that, there was no. It's interesting because we're talking about this Republic list, the Padme arc list, and it actually is not making those top lists. There's a lot of it. There's quite a bit of it, but not a ton of lists making it into that top cut. Not doing particularly well.
I think it's more reps than anything. I mean, take Dion for example. He picked it up on Monday, flew it on Thursday, and went 3-2 with it. So I think more than the list not performing, it's people picking it up and saying "Hey, I need something.
Yeah,
this is good. Let me go."
Yeah, I need something, and it turns out it's great against Han, which is supposed to be the big baddie. And it was. There was a lot of them. But yeah, that's going to be the heats, and same thing for the faction representation for that day. 28% Rebel, 28% Republic, 19 Empire, 19 Resistance, 4 Separatist, and no FO and no Scum. So all of the FO played on Friday. That's interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I wonder if they split up the faction prizes on those days. It's like, oh, we'll just put them all on that day.
What about into the cut then? What kind of numbers are we looking at for into the cut?
All right, so it looks like for Rebels, we had 4 making it into the cut, which is an 18% cut rate. We had 7 from Republic making it into the cut with a 37% cut rate. So even doing better than Rebels with a lower faction representation number. 37% is pretty good. If you're bringing that means if you're bringing Republic, you have a 37% chance to make it into cut.
Basically a 2 and 5.
Yeah. So next up is going to be Empire with only 1 making it into the cut, but at an 8% cut rate. We have Resistance, 1 making the cut with a 9% cut rate. First Order with 1 making the cut out of 4, so a 25% cut rate. Good job, Crispy.
That sounds like old Separatist numbers when they make up. There's like 4 players. Like, oh, look at that percentage.
Look at the percentage, though. It's like, well, the sample size is very, very small.
How many scum and
Also,
Separatist
one of
players
the 4
total?
being, one of the better players in the game right now with Crispy.
Yeah. So looking at there's 6 scum and 3 separatists.
3.
Yeah. So speaking of scum and separatists, none of those made the cut.
Yeah, I do want to talk just briefly about what people are bringing. I see ZAM and CIS. We have Maul Dooku, the double infiltrator list, and then a Cad Bane not Cad Bane, excuse me. Or no, Cad Bane, Sunfac. Looks like Tri-Fighters and a Hyena. So basically a classic salad for that one. But what about in Scum then? A Moralo with Royal Guard Fang Fighters, which is impressive there. And then
that was sad to hear about because that's Patrick. For people who recall, he did a lot of research on turn count and time back in the day for Dion. He came with, as you see, definitely not a common list, let alone a common scum list with Moralo, because everyone thought that Moralo was like Affer or Boss. The 2 Royal Guard Fangs, Boss C and Leighton. He had won his first round on Thursday and was extremely close to beating John Babcock in the second round. He lost by 1 point. In the process of that second round game, he unfortunately threw out his back and had to drop from the rest of the
oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully he's feeling better though.
Patrick.
Yeah, that scum faction really weighing heavy on him.
Yeah, he's putting the whole scum faction on his back there. We do have instances of a Boba Fett in a 3-ship build. Then it looks like a lot of them are Fen Rao in 4 to 5 ship builds, depending on if you're bringing Bosk or not.
A couple of Finn old T's as well. I do like to
Yeah.
see. I hate to see it, but I like to see it.
No,
old T out there.
Finn and Old T have such a high ceilings. The possibility of what they could do, they can look unkillable out there, but
they could also just die in a
I had a range 2 shot where they had to spend their focus on
Han
offense.
shooting both at range 2.
Yeah.
both.
With Han and Dash coming soon and stuff like that, yeah, they're gonna have a rough time for a little bit.
I don't know. Like I think the Fangs could be pretty great against something like Dash getting in that donut.
Well, they are. There was the top 2 was a double Fang. So don't forget that, but they just need that support. I think that's what Surisu can probably. The problem with Surisu is that there's no boost and there's no.
Yeah, the lack of boost in Scum is problem.
Yeah, I'm just saying for the defensive support that that Hera can provide them.
Just give me a 4-point Chemo that gets a free rear arc attack and can pass focuses to my Fangs. I think it will be a business.
But also,
It sounds
yeah,
like you're
the
you're describing arcs.
the two premium Rebel Fangs cost 9 points, whereas the two premium Scum Fangs cost 11. And
Yeah.
then on top of
That's
that,
true.
the Rebel faction does have someone named Luke Skywalker they get to bring with them too.
Yeah, Luke versus Old T. I think I know
yeah.
who. I think I know who I'm choosing.
That feels so bad, but man.
I mean,
that's
until
so
OT
bad.
gets range 1, and then who knows what's going to happen, because you're not going to have tokens. He's going to get in free evades. So, yeah. Though it's just interesting to me that people are really attached still to the Scum staples, Boba Fett, YV666s, and Fang Fighters. So, just want to shout out the factions where it's like, oh man, like nobody's talking about my Scum. Well,
No, we're
luckily
talking about it.
we see you trying. We want you.
keep it up. Keep it
We
up.
want you to keep trying, but maybe with so much meta lists, it sometimes takes that off meta to just break it, right? So, exciting times.
I mean, like 2 weeks ago, Padme was off meta.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, where it's like, well, that's cute. She's 4 points with like 90 other ships in the game.
Everyone laughed at me playing Padme, and then Paul he replies it, and it's so good. No,
You didn't have 2 arcs.
no, I had
Yeah,
two.
not enough arcs.
I had one too few arc.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, well, last thing I want to mention here is the upcoming World Qualifiers. If you got FOMO like I did, or I guess fear would be in the future, but if you felt like you're missing out on these World Qualifiers like me, just want to give a shout to the next ones. Looks like Nova, August 31st in Washington, D.C. is the next one for the U.S. We have ones in September in France, in Spain, then as well one in San Francisco. That's Golden State Games. They have a qualifier for Legion, X-Wing, and Armada. That is happening the 23rd and 24th of September. There's still one in September, the last weekend in September in London at the London Grand Tournament. Let's see here. I think that's it for September. Let's take a look at, is there any other ones scheduled for the United States? We have the St. Laureate, which is not quite the United States, but close enough, in Montreal, Canada. Oh, that's just for Armada. I apologize. I should be looking at just the X-Wing ones.
There's a weekend for both.
Oh, I see. It's the next weekend. That's October 21st in Montreal, Canada at that St. Laureate. St. Laureate goes double weekend, huh? Okay.
Yep.
Those people like to game. Let's see here. Is there any other ones for the U.S.? Oh, PAX is what you were saying in Philadelphia. That's not until December for that World Qualifier. And then the last one for the United States is in Las Vegas on January 18th at the Las Vegas Open. Has open for Legion and X-Wing. There's a full schedule on Atomic Mass Games website under their Star Wars transmissions, so definitely check that out. And of course, it is still Store Championship season. We put a link to Tim's map in our Discord. So if you are either running a Store Championship event or want to look and see where those Store Championship events are in your area, that map is a great place to do it. We set up right next to it is the submission form as well. They've been doing a great job curating that, getting it as much information about X-Wing events in a single location as possible. So I always got to shout out them, doing some good work out there. Any final thoughts on Gen Con, though?
I hope everyone had a lot of fun. Tried out other games. Checked out the con. Good time. I've been there 2 or 3 times now.
Yeah, it is a lot. It's anything you want to do, right? Especially like new games, demoing games. That's always my favorite part of trying out these different games.
I heard the Aerodome table did well.
Oh yeah, I do want to shout out Wade Pichet and Aerodome had their own booth. So that's very exciting. We look forward to their Kickstarter finishing here. Should be any time now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, anytime.
So very excited to check that out when it fully releases. Marcel, who is the most fun you had playing against?
The most fun, actually, they were all a ton of fun. Okay, so this is a tough one. I would say it's between Josh, which is my very first game. We play in the same area all the time, like but we just don't get to play each other. And then the final game, round 7. At that point, I lost round 6, so we were both technically eliminated. So there was like no,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
like there's no there's no pressure at that point. So it's always fun to play just a fun game with no pressure, and it's a little bit more loose. And so my round 7 opponent, it was just a lot of fun because both of us were like, we knew we were eliminated. We just playing a game to play a game, and it felt more like a league night game than anything else. And those are probably the most enjoyable ones because you're not really stressed about stuff like, oh, I missed you, like, oops, let's just eyeball that. Let's keep going.
Right.
It's just more fun.
Sure. All right. Sounds awesome. Well, be looking forward to the next events there coming up. What about store championships, Ryan? Did you run your event yet for your store championship?
Yeah, I ran it last weekend.
Last weekend. Gotcha.
I think I mentioned that last week too. So we'll probably have another one, but we will have another one at the store I run it at. Late October, early November, probably. I'll post a bunch about it once it's finalized.
Awesome. We should have one in Iowa being currently scheduled. So I'll give you hopefully an update on that one. I always got to support those Iowa tournaments. But I think that's it for us. Been an exciting weekend for X-Wing overall. Some things to look forward to. And a lot of lists now, or even more lists, I should say, they should be prepping for your next tournament. But until next time, this has been Gold Squadron. Stay smart, stay safe. Gold Squadron out.
Thank you to ISO, Danko, Baffle, Trojan, Prophet, Shadow, Tycho, Spice, Raider, Lancer, Fallen, Row 6, 626, Chief, and J List, our Grand Admiral patrons. And all of our Gold Squadron patrons and community members, thank you for your support. Gold Squadron out.